We'd like to welcome Grant Watling to the After Dinner Leadership Podcast. Grant, welcome.
Thank you. It's an absolute honor to be here.
Great. Now, many of the guests that we have on, I have never met before, other than in the preliminary preparation calls that we have. You are one that I've known since I was a teenager, and probably before, in fact. So we've got to be careful with each other, what we share, I guess. There's some secrets that were probably best left off air. Is that fair?
I think that's fair. Yes, we all evolve over the years, right?
We do, and I'm very grateful for you being here, because you are someone that inspires me, and I enjoy the conversations that we have. And I think most recently we were skiing together, and kind of it's like, Grant, I'd like you to come on the show. Come on, let's go for this. So I really appreciate you agreeing to that. And did you agree, or did I just cajole you and so you couldn't say no? I'm not sure.
No, I think I accepted out of fear in the moment. So, and ever since thinking, oh, what did I do? Why am I here? Imposter syndrome kicked in pretty heavily after that.
Yeah. Well, you're very welcome. I'm sure there's some great lessons to learn. And actually, some of the conversations we'll have now, we haven't had before as well, which I'm excited to learn a little bit more about too. And we're around this virtual dinner table, Grant, and I'd love us to kind of get into that vibe a little bit more. What food reminds you of your childhood?
For me, it's cereal. I was a big
Okay.
cereal eater.
Yeah.
And it wasn't exclusive to breakfast. It was a meal of any time of the day. It's a snack. It was good before you go to bed. And I grew up in the countryside, and in the summertime, what I learned was there's different levels of cream on the milk, and the cream rose to the top, right? So the very top bit
Yeah.
was very creamy, and I developed this love for creamy milk. So it was almost like a dessert level. If you had creamy, really, it was almost like single double cream on your
Yes.
frosties. Oh wow, yeah, that was the land of milk and honey. It was incredible.
Very good. So, in any time of day, cereal eater. I mean, we didn't have that many cereal options when we were kids. Let's be honest. So, Frosties was pretty high grade
Frost,
cereal,
that
Grant.
was up there. Yeah, sugar puffs
So,
if you were really kind of feeling special. But probably the go-to would have been Shreddies.
yeah, very nice. Good. Well, it's great to have you here, and we'd love to just find out what are some of the lessons that you wish you'd learned earlier as a leader. Actually, before we go there, just describe your role, portfolio chief customer officer. What does that mean?
Yeah, it was an interesting one to me because I wasn't aware of this kind of job existing. So I work for a private equity firm. So we buy companies, we build and invest in them, and then we sell them for additional value. Right? That's the goal. So we're a build up, and then add value back. So I work in the value creation team. And what that really means is connect with the chair or the CEO or the chief customer officer or the board level people in those companies,
Yeah.
working with them. So none of them report to me. These are super experienced, seasoned leaders. They know exactly what they're doing, but they come to us as people that we know what we're doing in our sphere of operation. So, yeah, I work for the HG Capital parent, and the portfolio we have is about 50, 60 software companies, and they range in size from maybe 100 million turnover up to maybe 3 billion in turnover, and all the kind of varieties in the middle there. And yeah, we support them in their growth.
Amazing. Great. Well, what a fabulous perspective that gives you into different organizational cultures within that portfolio group as well, I'm sure. So lots of learning there, I expect. Yeah. Great. Well, let's take a listen then. What are the three leadership lessons you wish you'd learned earlier?
Okay, so the first one, uh, management aren't in charge. Find the secret pockets of power. And what I mean by that, there was an experience early in my career where I thought I was a manager and I had the title of manager, but I was definitely not in charge. So that was an early painful one with a kind of funny story behind it. Um,
Great.
my next one is find talent and adopt it. So I've found over the years that there are great people across organizations and sometimes don't really know how to get the best out of them or their best position, but I've been able to adopt them and then, they've been incredible assets to the organizations. Um, and then my final one, and this was kind of learned late, was stop being busy and seek impact. And this one's been very difficult. I'm kind of a hard worker by my nature. And early career was in sales, so I was used to having a full diary. And I think that carried way too far into my career versus quieten down, really give yourself space. There you go.
Great.
That's
Oh,
my
there's
three.
plenty to chew on there. Thank you. That's great. All right. Well, cool. Well, let's go sequentially, actually, back to that first one. So management aren't in charge. Find secret pockets of power. You said there's a bit of a funny story, so immediately I'm interested.
Okay.
What helped you to come to that realization?
So I was very early 20s. I was working for HSBC Bank and I had a wonderful, great big oak paneled office. And I really thought I knew which way was up. And I was, um, I would say, the opposite of humble. I was definitely, you know, the man. And I'd suddenly got this big pay rise and I was like, wow, I'm working for this big bank. Um, and I was leading a team of about 60 people, biggest team I'd run at that point in my life. And we were doing okay, but it kind of was, there was some friction there, some underlying kind of what's going on. And the way that the banks work is you have management layers and you have these clerks, senior clerk levels, and they might have been there for 30 years.
Yeah.
And that was the case in this scenario. So four of them, at the end of the day, I kind of invited them to a chat. Can we talk? Feels like things aren't right. And they were kind of hesitant. I said, okay, look, just give it to me straight. What am I doing that's kind of driving you crazy? And they took me apart for an hour. I'm not even exaggerating. They absolutely dismantled me. These senior clerks, strong women, intelligent, just really actually knew what they were doing. And after that dismantling, I kind of thanked them, um, and from there we had an incredible relationship. They really, yeah, they'd taken their shot and they had their
Yeah.
moment. And I think they recognised that I maybe went a little bit hard on this young guy, but I was willing to listen. I think that was my saving grace. It was probably why I didn't know what to say back actually, but I
Yeah.
just heard them out, thanked them, and from there we went on to be actually a super successful team and branch, and it was them. They were the ones that were secret to my success. So I might have got the plaudits, but wow, they were the engine. They were incredible.
Great. What a great example. And perhaps if we can rewind back to that moment in time and you thought about inviting them in for this conversation, what was your expectation in doing that?
Such a good question, Si, and this is going to be a painful one. It kind of shared where I was at. I thought I'll give them a little bit of airtime, and then I'll kind of share which, what the right thing is to do, and we'll go from there. It was definitely
Yeah.
I know what we're doing, and I'll just kind of give them a moment because I want to get my time to say something. Uh, yeah, and then when I realised as that was going on, this was definitely not going to play out that way. And
Yeah.
I'd been through the sales training, which was active listening. So again, kind of almost lucky saving grace was learn how to listen to people and not just to respond, but actually listen. And as I was listening more and more, I was realizing I am so far off the mark here. Oh, I'm actually in the wrong, genuinely in the wrong. And I don't know how to fix this actually, but I'll keep listening until they've finished what they're saying. And yeah, they had a healthy list.
Great. I mean, I want to explore this some more. So you're in this meeting, you realize your plan is not your plan anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
How did you, okay, this may be too long ago to remember, but how did you stay composed enough to listen rather than to defend or to fight back? All right, that's enough. It's now my turn. Let me have it. You know, I'm going to give
Yeah.
you a few things. how did you stay in a space of actually listening? Because there's listening, and then there's not fighting back. I guess there's
Yeah, right.
something in that I'd like to explore.
I'd read recently before that the Stephen Covey Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, and I'd kind of had that in my mind, or almost this Indian talking stick moment of, right, let's give them the stick to be understood. But again, it's kind of platitudes in my mind of, oh yeah, this will be a brief thing. Um,
Yeah,
but as they were talking, as that realization of, okay, this is going to go differently, I then had that kind of calling back to listen to understand. Just
yeah,
try and understand where they're coming from. And I'll unpack this another time. But kind of, I also maybe had a little bit of lucky presence of mind of, I don't know what to say, so I'll ask some questions. So what is it that makes you feel that way? Or, yeah, what am I doing? Like, tell me more. And so it was that kind of questioning, which then also allowed them to cut deeper, actually. I think they were kind of semi-harsh, but man, once they got that permission to go, it was a dressing down.
well, your eyes have got a bit watery. I'm not sure if it's reminiscent fun or is that you're actually remembering the pain
It, it
of
was a flashbulb
those
moment.
cuts.
Those kind of moments in time where you remember
Yeah.
everything. The color was on the wall, everything about it, and yeah, it was a formative experience, which
Yeah.
changed me forevermore after that point.
Yeah. I want to stay here because one of the things that I really admire in you is the way in which you control your ego. I've got a little story of my own. You may not remember this, but a
Oh,
couple of years ago we were playing volleyball outside as friends in the local park, and it was a good game, all going well. And then this group of youth started walking past. There's about 20, 30 of them, and you could tell some of them were off their heads. They're a little bit drunk, and it was a summer night, and it was a warm summer night. We were having a great time. Anyway, two or three of them came to the edge of the court, clearly wanting to play. Now, volleyball is my sacred cow. It's like, look, we've got a team here. The game's going really well. I'm thinking, get lost. I like, I didn't say anything, but it's just like, just go away. We're playing a good game. We don't need to be disturbed. And a couple of them said, "Oh, we want to play." I'm like, "No." That was what was going on for me. And you were near them. You said, "Okay, well, if you can serve 3 serves in, you can play." I said, it was something like that.
okay.
And they didn't. I mean, thankfully, it was a good gamble. They hit the ball all over the place, and then they walked away. They said thanks, cheers, great, and they were off. And I just think if we'd gone down my method of no, get lost, not quite like that, but please go away, they would have pestered us for probably a
Mm,
good half hour. But you had this capacity to kind of see that bigger picture and to like involve them, and then they went away within 90 seconds. They were gone. And I hope you get where I'm going with this, but it was just for me that was like this ego didn't get in the way. For me, it was like, look, this is my volleyball match, and please leave us. You were able to say, okay, there's a smarter way. I don't know if you have any recollection of that event,
I do
but
vaguely
yeah,
now. Now you say that. I think it's probably my approach of taking people's energy and channeling it in a certain way. So, to your point, they were going to get involved one way or another. And so our kind of choice or our option was how do I help them make a good choice? And part of that is how do I help them understand this could be a great experience or it just could be terrible for you as well. So yeah, give it a little bit of space, go for it. Then recognizing, all right, maybe this isn't as fun as I thought it was going to be. Or maybe I'm not going to get a rise out of these people. It's just a wasted moment. I'll bother someone else.
yeah.
So I think for me, it's that kind of how do I give people the ability to make a better choice?
Mm, that's nice. I like that. Just let that sit for a moment. That's good. Well, and I linked it back to this ego piece as well. Is that actually my ego was triggered a little bit in that moment, I guess, by them. It's like, no, this is my court, this is my ball, kind of go away. I didn't say all those things, but like inside I was getting prepared for the fight almost,
Mm.
and you just diffused it before it even got to that. It was really good.
Oh.
And I hear echoes of that in the story that you've told with your colleagues. You could have put up the barriers. You could have got all defensive. I'm the boss. Yeah, nice reflections.
Hmm.
Okay, let's. Are you happy to move to the second point?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is my
So find talent and adopt it.
yeah. I think this worked. I found best in big organisations, and by big, kind of, maybe you got a few thousand people now, and there will be those who are just contained by management or lack of imagination or opportunity, but you just see them and think, wow, there is a potential here that if I could unlock that, I think we could do some good. And so the motivation is, I want to do some good in this business. I want to get the right people in a room to go after it. And I think these people are it. And this is my maybe rebellious side, where I rarely ask permission for this. I'll have some kind of strategic initiative or something I'm going after, and I've spotted people along the way. And think, oh, could I? Hey, have you got some spare capacity? I want to get your thoughts on. And so it's typically I'm going to them asking for input. Go, I'd love to get your opinion on. What I'm actually offering them is probably the best career opportunity they're likely to get. But it's more hey, I think you could help me here, and I'm seeking your wisdom. And before you know it, they're starting to use more and more of their time on this thing. Now, it's not to the detriment of their day job, and you kind of got to balance that. And if there is then some
Yeah.
kind of decision to be made, okay, well, now let's have a trade-off. But by that point, I've almost got the proof of concept that, hey, we're adding value here. We're doing something that is going to be changing the trajectory versus a task. We can get others to solve the tasks. What we're doing is impactful. Um, so I kind of almost create a little bit of tension in doing that. And so I recognize that's not ideal. But what I found is incredible people on the way who are suddenly then energized. Like, wow, I'm doing this really interesting work, and that work actually matters. And I've got someone that's behind me going for it. Um, and that just becomes a kind of self-fulfilling, hey, this is nice, I like doing this, I want to do more of this. And yeah,
Mm.
setting up innovation centers, innovation opportunities, I found adopting people along the way has been incredibly rewarding.
Mm. Yeah, it's great. We've used a similar principle in many of our development programs that we design around projects. And just doing one last week with a client, and it's that energy. It's there. Just like if you give a real clear, let's call it problem to solve or opportunity to realize, people's capacity to think of new things in different ways is huge. Even if they're not an expert in that field, it's so much. They can bring so much to it. It's amazing.
It is awesome. I was in a workshop last week with one of our portfolio companies. We were thinking about how do we AI first, AI through everything, right? So that's our current mandate is leveling people up so they're able to thrive in this next era that we're all kind of entering into. And so we were thinking about, well, how do I do this in my day job? And it was multifunctional. And what we started to get is at the beginning of the day, it was like, let's open your mind to what the art of the possible is. Let's show you a few things. And then you start to see these light bulbs go on around the room of, oh, I could do that. Or if you did that, I could do this. And then all of a sudden, it's like this jamming session for about an hour. It was just free flow. And I just stopped talking and they were solving. And then, I kind of almost had to step in and, all right, we're going to have to stop at some point. We've been out for 2 hours now. We should probably take a break. And it was such a beautiful experience to see what you just said there. There is that tapped or untapped potential that's there that we all want to have a good time at work, right? We spend so much
Yeah,
time doing it. Wouldn't it be so much more fulfilling to feel like I've got something that I'm involved in that is awesome?
yeah. I want to go back to when you first described this lesson learned. You said find talent and adopt it, and then you said adopt them.
Hmm.
So when I first heard it, I thought you were talking about learning new skills and adopt, like almost look out for those, inherit or adopt those talents that other people have, and like learn from others. And then you talked about adopting them, and I guess I'm just putting that echo back to you. What's your thoughts on on those
No,
two versions of that statement?
it's a good point you picked up on there. So, yes, I want their input and I want their expertise. What I found is we've ended up then forming teams. I might then have them as part of a team or some kind of indirect report or dotted line or something like that.
Yeah,
Um, and it's not here's what it's not. It's not a land grab. And that's kind of a really important thing. I'm not setting up I want to get all of the cool people because I want to run them. I have no interest in running empires. What I find super rewarding is doing good things, like doing interesting work that makes a difference. That's probably my
yeah,
biggest mantra, right? Um, and in doing that, I kind of then almost collect these people. And then by
yeah,
collecting them, we end up then becoming more formalized over time. But it would be maybe the choice of the business or the choice of someone else to say, hey, you guys have done something. I can see that proof of concept has got some opportunity. Let's formalize that. Let's turn that into a thing. And then maybe that'll become. And I've also seen people, and what I've loved is people's careers unfold. There was an incredible senior leader at one of the companies I joined, Proofpoint Cybersecurity, a couple of billion turnover. And this was a lady that was really seasoned. You know, she had been at the best companies in the world, and you kind of thought, I don't know, it feels like it's not treading water, but what she's doing is so far in her comfort zone that she's in her comfort zone.
yeah,
Um, but she also had a little element of, I'm not sure I'm more than this. Whereas any external objective person would look at them and think, no, you are. You're just a shadow of what you are. And so then offering her opportunities to stretch, I ended up putting her in charge of our worst performing function because she could turn it around. And she did. And she did an incredible job. And then it was the next project of, let's do that. And then as each of those things were achieved, you start to see that realization of, no, wow, I actually can do these things. Um,
yes.
and yeah, she's someone that I would hire in a heartbeat if she ever wanted to leave where she was, because she's just an incredible individual.
Great. And what are you noticing then? You're saying you're seeing this talent. What are some of the traits that stand out for you personally and say, oh, that's someone that would be great to be involved in this particular project? Is there any
Um,
trends in that?
yeah, there is. I think there's kind of two things. One is have you actually got some capability? So it's not necessarily you're a good egg, I'd like to bring you in, because they might have no ability to contribute whatsoever. So there
Yeah.
has to be an underlying capability, expertise, subject matter knowledge there. Um, the other part of it, though, is that little bit of spark. I can't. How would I define this? There is a willingness to do something extra, to
Yeah.
go for it, to extend themselves a little bit here. Um, and in doing so, I mean, a good example, there was an analytics problem I was trying to solve. It was a risk model we were building. And we had some analysts and they were super intelligent, but what they were doing was, here's our ask, okay, here's what you've asked for. And it would just be a very transactional experience. And I heard of someone that was very good. And I spoke to them. They were in another location, another territory, and kind of shared what I'm doing. And it's kind of interesting. I think it could be impactful. And they were, oh, okay, that is kind of interesting. So there was their interest. And then within the week, they came back and said, I've been thinking about this. And I came up with a few concepts. What do you think? I thought, I've got you. And what they'd shared was way better than anything we'd had before. And that was the beginning of all right, I think we have a new person that could be the leader of this. And a few more
Yeah.
rounds of, yeah, okay, they're the one. That's it. They will take
Yeah.
this way. way beyond anything we're currently doing right now.
Yeah, the word that comes to mind as you're describing that is the capacity to give insight. And so to provide insight in there that goes beyond, like you say, the kind of more linear, I don't know, x plus y equals z or whatever. It's that, you know, that ability to be able to look beyond that formula and see things that perhaps haven't been said or shared or
Yeah, no, I
these kind
think
of
you're
things.
right. And
Yeah,
I'm always looking for that. I want things to be brilliant. Like good enough is fine in many instances, but yeah, wouldn't it be way more engaging, interesting? Like, could we make this special? Like really, really good.
yeah,
And you start to kind of, yeah, what would be better if? And oh, yeah, we could. And it's that kind of ingenuity is probably what I value a lot there.
love it. All right, great. Thank you. And then let's come to your third point, which is this recognizing that perhaps busyness was a measure of success, and actually you've shifted to this idea of impact. Um, why? Let's maybe stay with the first point. What was it that was? What did you value about being busy? Maybe what do you value about being
Yeah,
busy?
that's a good question. Um, I think it did hark back to my sales days. There was an activity wheel that I was indoctrinated in, where if you do so many outreaches, so many meetings, so many second meetings equals so many, contracts signed. And it was
Yeah,
pretty straightforward. Put the effort in, the sales will pop out the other end. And as I built my sales career, it was I know I need to be activity driven. And I was never really great at sales. It wasn't something I was passionate about, but I was pretty good, and I was, kind of top 10 in HSBC, and we had 900 people. So I wasn't a laggard in any regards. But me walking into a room of 100 strangers, I can't think of anything I want to do less. I just don't want to do it. So I would endure it. And that's why I was very task oriented. And then that kind of carried into my operational life. So I shifted from sales into more of a consultative, and that's more billable hours. So if you're not doing project work, you're not billing, and that's the measure of success. So again, very activity driven, and then project work and kind of strategic initiatives. A lot as the kind of the stakes went higher, almost became more and more demanding. And how many meetings have I got through today? Because I want to move the ball forward, whatever cliche you want to use, right? But it was
yeah,
always that. And it made me feel productive. That my effort equaled productivity. Um, until I realized it wasn't. And no matter how busy I was never going to make some of the biggest impacts because I was so busy being busy. I actually didn't have the mental space to step back and have some perspective on actually why am I doing that? What should we even be bothering with this thing? Or should I be doing
yeah,
something completely different? So I think it was not a crisis moment, but maybe a clarity moment where I recognized as I'd progressed in my career, I needed to look further down the path. So as a early career, it was right, do what's in front of me, be useful, almost be obedient, execute. And then became a supervisor. Okay, I've now got a little bit more to carry on as a manager as I kind of progressed into a director, and then from director to VP, and then from VP to C-suite. It was, I need to be further sighted or farther sighted. And to get that, I've actually got to quieten some of the noise around me to have right, let's zone this out. What's the signal in this noise? What should I actually be doing? There you go. That's my reflections in the moment on it.
great. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate, and uh, develop that for me a little bit more, Grant. The seeking impact rather than busyness. How do you gauge that you're achieving that? So for someone who's trying to transition from this maybe efficiency mindset to effectiveness, like how do you gauge that you're having the necessary impact?
I found the clarity in what's the business purpose. So what are we actually here to do? What is the function of this organization, and how could I play a part in contributing towards that? So we kind of talk about KPIs, and often people just have lots of things they're measuring, and none of them really are a key performance indicator. Or we have these great big goals, and you agree them at the beginning of the year, and they go into an HR system, and you don't really look at them for another 6 months. Well, it kind of doesn't feel very important anymore. So, what actually is the thing that matters? What would make the biggest difference? And can I be a part of the answer? And if I could align myself with that, what I found was then I was value creation. So I wasn't just a person in the business that was doing a job, and we're all that, and we're all irreplaceable. So I never really kind of thought, oh, this is a security thing. It was more, I want to make a difference, and
Yeah.
it was that desire to make a difference, and that's probably more me reflecting on. I don't want to just show up and spend 10 hours a day doing something mindless and go home again. That's not what excites me. So if I could make a difference and I can align what I'm doing to achieving what the business would like to have as an outcome as well, and I think it was that outcome oriented focus um, that gave me the clarity of I'm going to do that thing. Because if I do one of that, that's probably worth 50 of these other things. So how about I go for that instead?
Yeah. Love the perspective on that. That's great. And whilst we're in this territory, I think it would be nice just to explore something else in this space. What else is something that you used to value that you no longer value as strongly?
The first one that came to mind was obedience, which is so counterintuitive, right? Let me explain it for a moment. So, I have two kind of constructs in my world. So, I have a deep faith in a religion, and there is an obedience value system in me, which has this kind of morality code and integrity. And no matter how much I try, I can't just break it. So if there's something wrong, I have to right it. If no one ever sees it, I'll do the right thing. That's just who I am. What I've learned though is so many of the systems that we put in place in the work environment were a good idea at the time. It was the right thing to do, but probably hasn't been looked at for the last 5 or 10 years. Having that mindset of, well, why? Why is that still the best way? Maybe the
Yeah.
markets change, the companies change, the capabilities have changed. So that kind of almost the disobedience in that regard of I'm not much of a rule policy follower unless I understand why. If I've got the why, I am all in and I'll bring everyone with me. But if I don't get the why, I'm continually scratching at that. And it kind of, yeah, that's a big weakness of mine, actually.
Well, or the strength, or the strength. Yeah, it's kind of non-conventional. It's like let's break the orthodoxies. Yeah,
Yeah. And then in doing that, it's probably where I've formed some of those special teams is could we not do this a different way? Is there not a better way of approaching that? And if we could prove that it was and it was beneficial in all the right ways, then okay, maybe we've just created the next thing. That that could be
yeah.
helpful to everyone.
Where'd you get the courage from to follow through on a thought of like that?
Oh, proof of concept. I love a little experiment. Yeah, having some data. I think particularly if you are going to put yourself out there, there's other leaders that have got competing priorities. You're just one of many in any given organization, and the organization's only got finite resources. So anything we do is going to be competing against the next thing. So to have the space to just run a little experiment. Well, I've got a hypothesis. Let's test that. And we could be way off. All right, we won't bother with that one. Or we might actually have stumbled onto something. Oh, could I repeat that? If I can repeat it, all right, now I'm onto something. I've got some evidence that I can have a conversation with that's not Grant's opinion. It's we did a thing, we found a result, we learned something new, we think we could extend that or scale that in these ways, and therefore it's going to be good. It's kind of difficult to argue with that.
Yeah, yeah. I can see that. It's great. Wonderful. Well, what a great conversation. Thank you so much for sharing what you have done. It's been so nice to speak to you in this context. Always enjoy our conversations. I thought we might talk about AI today. You dropped it into the conversation earlier, but I'm going to leave it where it is, actually. Maybe there's another episode, another time, because I know it's something you're very passionate about. Um, let's. I want to bring that young or mid-20-year-old HSBC leader around this table now, and imagine he's sitting here with us. Now, where do I want it? Post being ripped to shreds or pre-ripped to shreds? No, post. Like, he's just had that meeting with the clerks and maybe feeling a little bit bruised. You've got some time in between then and now. We won't reveal the age too much, but like, what counsel would you give that guy?
Yeah, what would I give that guy? I think I'd probably give him a pat on the back and go, well, you faced your foes almost. So that was a good moment. So whether you meant to do it or not, let's give you some kudos for that. And then also, I kind of encourage them to go, look, don't take it too personally. So we all go to work and we are there for different reasons. And some people are there because it's their purpose and they love it, and others are enduring a day and we don't know what they're going through or what's in their home life. And you could have just been the one that they lashed out at in the moment. But to kind of have that maybe perspective, step back and go, all right, just regroup. I know it was painful and it was bruising, to your point. But you weren't doing everything wrong as well. They kind of don't throw everything out. So take on board what they're saying and blend it with the best that you've got. And between those two, you've now probably got the next iteration, which is even better. So it might not be all of theirs, and it's definitely not all of yours. But I guess what I'm trying to say is pick the best of all of that and then go again. What I found was having then that regular dialogue was great afterwards. Kind of small course corrections. We didn't need the big one anymore. It was the how's your week? What was I like today? Anything that I did was a total jerk. No, okay, all right, we're a good day today. But it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't I would say a complete departure and losing yourself. It was keeping those good things plus recognizing that useful feedback, which was helpful to me.
Very nice too. Thank you. Grant, you continue to inspire me. You have done today. And I love these lessons. So this idea of finding these secret pockets of power and working with them, finding talent, seeking out talent, adopting the talent to help innovate. And then the last one was around prioritizing to have impact rather than just activity, and making a difference that way. It's good lessons, amongst other things. Thank you for sharing those with us today. As you verbalize this stuff, what's the takeaway for you from the conversation today?
I think I've been very lucky over the years. I really have. I've had some incredible leaders that I've been around that have given me maybe the opportunity to walk in the room. It's been up to me then earn my right to stay in the room, but I've definitely had those, doors open. And whether it was hard work or luck or blessings, or probably a combination of many of those. But I've been lucky to learn from so many people that I've, I guess, adopted as mentors as well, whether they wanted it or not. And equally, people that I've worked with, which I found really difficult, just hard. I didn't like them, to get on with them, but I probably learned just as much from who I was and how I was showing up with them as the ones that I admired or looked up to, if not more, because it informed me of, I never want to be that. That's not who I'm going to become when I grow up.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I've grown up yet.
When that day comes. Yes.
Still a child.
Right. Thanks so much, Grant. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you for joining us. And
thank you.
And I wish you the very best of success in the role that you have and the future. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Si.